So this video will be a little bit different than what you're used to on my channel. It's going to be a little bit more vloggy. I'll be taking you along with me on a visit to Pascal Van Loenhout, whom I photographed 2 times in the past. Pascal is a renowned and respected hairdresser from Antwerp, and I saw some of his childhood photos pass by on Instagram a while ago, and they really piqued my interest, and I want to use them for my upcoming book. So that's why I decided to go and pay him a visit to scan some of these photos for the layout of my book. And secondary, I think it'll be a nice opportunity for me to do a video interview with him as well, as he has a very impressive collection of traditional tattoos, which is my personal favorite of tattoos. So by the way, if you don't know who I am or what I'm talking about and just stumbled across this video, my name is Stylist and I'm a photographer from Belgium. I photograph people with face tattoos and have been doing so for the past 5 years. I released my first book a couple of years ago. I released a Polaroid book last year, and I'm currently working on my new book, which will be called Jobstoppers, a collection of face tattoo portraits, volume 2. So as I mentioned before, I was meeting Pascal in his boutique salon in the center of Antwerp. Pascal is always super nice, always happy to see me, always has a smile on his face. It's always a real pleasure seeing and meeting him. He was also very well prepared, having already gathered some of the photos that I asked for. There's some photos from his punk face, there's some photos from his new wave face. I really like this specific one. I love his haircut, I love the fact there's the Sushi and the Banshees poster in the back. We actually ended up spending quite some time going through some older concert tickets, some flyers, and photos as well. These are some of my other favorite photos that I scanned to use in the book. If you've seen my previous book, you'll already know that I love incorporating elements that are specific to a certain person in their layout. So here you can see I'm scanning his signature scissors, which include his initials PVL, as well as the nickname Ace of Blades. We ended up scanning a couple of extra photos, and by then it was almost time to start my interview. So without any further ado, here is my interview with Pascal Van Loenhout. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm Pascal Van Loenhout. I'm a hairstylist with a specialty in hair cutting. And I've been doing that for 33 years, and I've been on the road globally for 24 years doing all forms of education in cutting through masterclasses, seminars, workshops, shows, big shows. But I have my own establishment here in Antwerp since 2007. So on top of all the traveling and the education, I also still work behind the chair, which keeps it real for me.
How did you end up in that specific world?
My global career started in London. So I moved to London in '97, very focused on making a career there. So I grew up very fast in one of the big global brands in the world. And first I worked myself up in London, but it was only 3 years down the line. I started traveling first all over the UK, then in Europe, and then eventually my travels became global. And then after 10 years, I decided to come back to my roots, to do my own thing here in Antwerp. Yeah, it started to slowly build up again, having some leftover connections, I guess, and from one thing started another. I started working for another big global brand who now I'm a freelance design director for. So that actually put me back on the map full-time almost, yeah.
As I said before, your preferred style of tattooing, American traditional, is my preferred style of tattooing as well. Is there a specific reason why that style of tattooing speaks to you, and why?
Yeah, first of all, I like the whole old school vibe about it. I like the boldness. I like the brightness of it. I like how it symbolizes subjects instead of being too realistic. For me, it feels like it's also the most timeless kind of style, which is important to me. And what I also realized, because I wanted to get tattooed from the age of 18 basically, but it was not a thing at that time because of environment, parents, family, you know, whatever. So I waited very long, but in that time it also made me realize it's for me the tattoo style that has the best longevity when it comes to aging and bleeding into your skin. That has become important to me over the years. I wouldn't have noticed that so much back in the day. Also, one of the reasons why I got tattooed in the first place is because of my white, delicate, porcelain, slightly freckly skin, which I'm not very happy about. So the boldness of the stronger lines and bright colors are for me a very good recipe together to have that established on my white skin.
That definitely makes sense, and I feel that you hit some very good points home with the fact that traditional tattoos have a very good longevity, and that their beauty is often in their simplicity, and doesn't need to be too detailed to get a strong tattoo. You already mentioned that you didn't get tattooed at an early age, so you started getting tattooed a little bit later on in life. Can you tell me a little bit about how old you were and what actually drove you to start getting tattooed?
I waited very long because I was maybe too heavily influenced by my environment. Also, my work as a global director, even though it's a creative job, I was like, okay, is it appropriate? Is it going to influence my job? And then at the age of 41, it was actually maybe the start of a new point in my life. You know, being in the middle of the start of a divorce, that I decided, you know what, I've came to a point, I'm 40 now, in my life where I don't want to hold back any longer. I want to do what I really want to do. And then I decided to put all the things that stopped me before aside to have my first tattoo done. And it was also, I think, I went to a big festival where I met Ludo from La Main Bleue, and I was very intrigued by his personality and the way he was a really cool guy, very passionate about his shop and the artists that he was working with. And I think that's also something that drew me over the line, to have a person and a place and a space that felt not intimidating. Because for me, what also held me back maybe in the past is like, what shall I get? By who shall I get it? Which is a genuine tattoo shop, which is a genuine place to go and you know, have the real true heritage of the art without making the wrong decisions. And I get very often compliments that I have a great canvas filled up with only good work. And that's probably one of the advantages of starting maybe late in your life, I guess.
That's definitely a good point, because if you start too soon and just start getting random stuff, you might regret later. And I know several tattoo artists and just non-tattoo artist people that if they could start over again, they would go about it completely differently. So I think it can definitely be an advantage to start getting tattooed later on in life. Can you tell me a little bit about who or which artist tattooed or contributed to your collection, your amazing collection, by the way?
Thank you. Well, one of my favorite artists, it was the second artist actually to get tattooed by, or maybe the third, is Albarra from Madrid. And I was very attracted to his style when I first was exposed to that about 11 years ago. So he was as a guest artist in Belgium, one of my friend's shops, La Main Bleue. And as soon as I got my first piece from him, it was not only about the quality of the work and the style within the style. It was also, I just liked his personality, and I think getting tattooed is something very personal. And yeah, I kind of wanted to continue with being in a very similar, timeless kind of style all over my body. So I decided most of my upper body is by Albarra. And then I have collector's pieces on my legs from different traditional or old school artists, like Joe Dynamite. My first piece was actually from Todd Noble, American artist. And my first piece was actually black and gray, which portrait, yeah. And yeah, since then, I think my second artist advised me. He said, you should go color. I said, yeah, I want to go color, but I'm scared. He said, no, you have the perfect white canvas for color. So from that moment, yeah, I decided to continue in color. So my first tattoo I have framed with an old school yellow frame, just to put it in the right perspective. But yeah, Barra's my most liked artist, I would say. I have cool pieces from El Monga and amongst other Lafouite, great artist. My head is covered by the same artist, Lafouite from Belgium here, which I also hugely respect. And it's nice to have a collection, but I also like the consistency of sticking to an artist sometimes.
I remember from last time when we met, you talked about having, I don't know, one or maybe even more than one funny tattoo as well. I think it was by Bara, maybe, if it was on your legs, if I remember correctly. Can you tell me a little bit? Do you have any other specific funny tattoos or more like joke tattoos?
I like this question. No, well, I think the time has come now for me to have maybe the first funny tattoos. I still haven't got that drunk tattoo yet. And all my friends laugh at me. They said, you need to have at least one bad tattoo, or a naive tattoo, or a funny tattoo, or a drunk tattoo, you know. I think my most funny one is probably, where is it now? Oh, it's here. It's like a lady who's actually naked, hidden in an old school gramophone, and the sound goes through her poopy, and so she's farting music, but the cloud is so dark and so vicious that I think it's a it's a rather kind of special piece of music coming out, judging by the cloud of it. So I think that's probably my most funny one. But when it comes to fillers, I think I'd like probably some more funny ones. Yeah, I haven't really thought about it. Maybe the point is not thinking about it, you know, too much. But I definitely get maybe like a real rock and roll drunken one at one point. I think I deserve that, you know. My body deserves that. And I'm definitely gonna go for some fillers at the moment soon. And they can be maybe a little bit more naive or a little bit funny, but I'm sticking to old school. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the next thing that I was going to say. Even though it's like a funny type of thing, it's still very well done and it's still traditional. It's a beautiful piece. But that was exactly the one that I was referring to that I recalled from last time.
I don't know, but farts are always funny, right? There's something funny about farts. It never gets old.
Definitely true, especially if they're musical.
Yeah, well, I don't know. That looks like death metal to me, but you know.
It does. I think maybe one of the last questions. Tell me a little bit more about taking the step of getting your face tattooed, and which artists have contributed or tattooed your face.
Yeah, for me, face tattoos are something I'm really attracted to. I think there's such a fine line between enhancing your individuality or your identity, or actually crossing that line in a way which for me, it never gets really crossed looking at other people. For me, it was a little bit of a step. And then I did quite some research for that. So I found Indiewood from the Purple Sun in Brussels, and I saw how specialized and delicate he was with very specific tattoos in very specific places, also like ears and face and stuff like that. So as soon as I decided on a possible first face tattoo, I contacted him, and he was very comfortable to communicate with, and I wanted to honor the symbol of death before dishonor, because I think that's a very classic statement in tattooing, in old school tattooing. So I chose for a heart pierced by a dagger representing that quote, and I've been super happy with it from day one. It's for me probably one of my more favorite tattoos or spots to be tattooed. And yeah, later I did another one on the other side because it was about balance, being a creative person, you know, okay, that has to be in balance. Then I did the Ace of Spades, which was an honor for me to my favorite band. And yeah, not only band, but favorite person is Lemmy from Motorhead. So he deserved the spot on my cheekbone, I think. And they're quite delicate. I haven't really had maybe the guts or the urge to go very strong on my face, but every time I have something done, placed very specifically, and India is very good at that, I'm actually really happy. So I'm not going to go really crazy on my face, I think, but I still need some work to be done for the future. I have the number 71, which is obviously the year I was built. And then, yeah, my head tattoos actually on the side, the back, and the top of my head are done by Lafitte, great artist, great friend now. And yeah, his style is also really bold, so I want it to be very strong and bold on my head. And being a hairstylist without hair, it gave me actually a lot of confidence to have these beautiful drawings and colors on my head being immortalized.
Perfect. I think I'm out of questions. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, let's wrap it up.
Say thanks, Joachim, for your dedication to the art of tattooing. I think we need people like you, not only respecting the art, but also I think documenting it in a way that it has not done before, because I think the outside world needs to see the art side of that, and I think you're amazing in portraying that. So thanks for this interview.